Just kidding. Hello, I'm here. Welcome to the show. Double salute to start things off. Hopefully, the stream health is better than it's been because it's been god-awful lately. I know that. Welcome to the weekly spinner rack. I have upgraded the internet. I've upgraded all my equipment. I did a test a couple days ago. It seems to be working well. I hope it is today. I'm not 100% sure. But I'm trying, folks, to improve every time. So with that all said, welcome. Oh my God, today's show is huge. I've got a ton of comic book news and a ton of comic books to look at because I took last week off. I was traveling for the holidays. Missed you guys. Happy to see you here. Let's say hellos to some people that are here. Let's see. This is a nice one to start with. Look at that. Yes. Thank you, J Muse. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to all of you out there. Really appreciate that you're here. Let's see. What else have we got? Looking good. I like that. We've got Jamil Frost saying Happy New Year. Let's see. What else do we have here? Sorry, the chat is going fast. I'm missing. I can't show it all. We've got David Vargas saying hello. Let's see. Stream health, important online and in the bathroom. Too true. Too true. I hope it's better today. I hope it is. I obviously am not 100% sure what it's like because I'm broadcasting. I'm not watching it. But I upgraded to the highest echelon of like what my service provider offers. And I've got it, hardwired with an Ethernet cable. I hope it's better. I hope it's better tonight. Hello, Big Gay Dave. Hello to Wayne. Hello to Out of Voida. Lovely to have everybody here. Yes, all these Happy New Years. Love it. Went to Times Square, but was too crowded to see the ball drop. I know what that's like. I've been there around New Year's, and yeah, it's pretty insane. Pretty insane. Hey, it's my good buddy Randy. Happy New Year, Randy. Randy's in the process of mailing out his Bullet Adventures #1. That was a Kickstarted comic that he did that he talked about a little bit on this live show. And I know he's gearing up to have a Kickstarter for issues 2 and 3. And I just want to say congratulations, Randy. I'm trying to remember the site that did it, but there was a site that was putting up a bunch of nominees for like most beautiful comic of the year, and they included yours. So, congratulations to that, bud. Saying, how you on? Yes. Hello to the chat and everybody else. All mailed. Well, there you go. I know you've always fulfilled all of your Kickstarters, so appreciate that, Randy. Who knows? Maybe I'll do one in 2023. We'll see. It's a possibility, but I will say, I use my phone now as like a camera because it was better than the webcam that I have. Otherwise, I was going to pull something up. I meant to put it in sort of my my news document, and I forgot to. But my pal Mark Englert, who has drawn and colored a bunch of great comics, is coloring the cover that I'm doing for Dynamite for Vampirella, and I wanted to show you the progress. But that'll have to wait till next week. I made a mistake. Forgot to include that in the doc. But I think that you guys will like that, and that'll be for issue 6 of Vampirella Year 1, I believe, right now. I'll confirm that when we get closer. We've got a lot of news and a lot of comics. In fact, we've got so many comics in just the last 2 weeks. I don't have time to do my even mini recaps. All I can sort of do is recommendations, and I'm going to pause on 1 or 2 that stood out to me with something I can. So let me add that. I'm going to change the setup here. So this is like the last 2 weeks since and I'll just go through them quickly. I read a lot of comics while I was on vacation, relaxing at my mother's house, on the airplanes, both there and back. So I read a lot of comics. Groo, it's the nice thing about Groo is it's consistent. It's always funny. It always looks the same. Of course, I recommend that. Batman versus Robin, Waid and Asrar. Oh my God, the artwork in this is great. Mahmoud Asrar is definitely a treat for the eyes. this is definitely a recommend. Although one thing that Mark Waid is doing with Batman that I like even more, I have to admit, is this book, Batman, Superman, World's Finest, with artwork by Dan Mora. Very, very fun comic. Made a lot of people's top 10 list for the year, and I understand that. I gave it an honorable mention. There were a few books that I neglected to include in my honorable mentions in retrospect, but that's the tough thing about trying to recap an entire year in a video. I feel pretty good about my top 10, but one that I got recommended by a bunch of you guys that are watching is It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth by Zoe Thorogood. And that's an autobiography that she did for 6 months. She deals with severe, severe depression. Super talented writer and artist, though. She's great. And she did like a 6-month autobiographical comic. It really pushes the bounds of what you can do with a comic book in really fun, cool ways. I read that on an app called Hoopla, which allows you to connect your local library. As long as you've got a library card, you just put it in there. Actually, to be fair, my wife really helped me with that. Chrissy helped because she's got a card and she set it up for me. But I just went into Hoopla and I was able to check out the book digitally. And you get the book, you get like something like up to 8 books a month that you can like read, and they're on your device for 21 days. It's pretty nice. And you're not stealing because, you know, our taxes go to the libraries, and then the libraries are paying the publishers for the rights to stream these books. So I really recommend Hoopla. I thought it was great. Anyway, yeah, World's Finest is good. Let's see. Just watched an Instagram live she did that was cool. Nice. Let's see. Hoopla is awesome. Great. I'm glad that other people are taking advantage of it. I'm going to use it a lot now that you set up one time. 8 books a month is a fair amount, and they've got a good back catalog of digital comics that you can read, which is really, really nice. Let's see. K-Bar says, I love Hoopla. Saves me so much money and supports libraries. Will never stop singing its praises. It's fantastic. I wish I knew about it earlier. I love it. Oh, there we go. Jordan says that he read it on Hoopla today. It was really, really good. It definitely could have made top 10 list a year if I had read it before I did my video. Moritaka, Happy New Year, Chris. Gonna finally start the final drafts of my graphic novel this year. Hopefully I can mail it to your P.O. box when it's done. I would love that. That would be great. Good luck with that. That sounds like a great project. And I know you're in Japan. Chrissy and I are currently thinking early June we'll probably go back to Japan. So we'll see. But that's the current plan. Hold on. There's a question here. What's the name of the graphic novel again? The one I was recommending is It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth by Zoe Thorogood. You'll find it. Can't really recommend this. Would love to. Just wasn't really my thing. For anything that like sort of has crisis in the title, I'm going to grade it on a harder curve. I think it needs to be suitably epic. And, this comes down to Robin versus Slade Wilson Deathstroke, which has a lot of history, but it didn't really build that history in this particular comic. You'd have to know that history from reading other comics. So I didn't feel like it was a very emotionally satisfying conclusion there, but whatever. Oh, I found Ninja Funk #1. I don't know if Jim Mahfood's in the chat today, but there we go. I got the variant by him. And this book is bonkers. Music-based sci-fi, future apocalypse savior stuff. It's so over the top. It really is fun. I'd heard some good things. I was glad to see it. Whoa, look at that. Our first super chat of 2023, I believe. Supreme Omega says, on your new 52 video on Crisis, did DC really have to remove all of the multiverse? They could have just kept 3 universes with Earth 1, Earth 2, and Earth 3. Yeah, I mean, they definitely could have. I guess we're at the point where people understand the concept of the multiverse pretty darn well. Originally they sort of tried to wipe that out because I think they thought it was confusing having all these different Earths. I can understand the logic there, but I think it's now a concept that's been around so much and in so much pop culture that the multiverse is here to stay. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate that. Hey, Vanish. A lot of people love this, and I'm no exception. Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman doing a story of maybe an R-rated Harry Potter type riff. Definitely fun and cool. Maybe it's a little edgelord, but I don't care as long as it's executed well. It still has some likable characters. I think that Donny Cates can do that a lot better than somebody like Mark Millar. That's just my 2 cents. And Ryan Stegman's definitely an artist on the rise. So I recommend that. This one I'm really kind of ambivalent about. I just love Ninja Turtles. They're going for 1980s cartoon here. I think that TMNT is a good artist. This isn't a bad take, but the G.I. Joe art when they did a Saturday Morning Adventure series, I mean, that looked like it was cells taken right out of the cartoon, and this is just sort of like a vaguely animated style. It's clean, it's fun. The writing is definitely accurate, but I don't love it as much as the G.I. Joe one. I think it's a little edgelord, Vanish, and I'm not saying that as a bad thing. I just, they're going for something kind of over the top violent, right? Let's see. I keep forgetting to look for Vanish. Well, I think it's gonna take off. I think it's doing well. No. Something is Killing the Children. Yeah. Love this series. It's creepy. It's got great characters. Sometimes I do wonder if this would be better as a TV show than as a comic book, though. And that bothers me a little because I know I usually prefer a comic book. But there's something about horror that's very tricky to do in comic books because you can't really surprise anyone. You just have to come up with creepy concepts. But fortunately, I do like the characters in this arc. I do give it a recommend. Berserker 11, this book has lost me a little bit, but I'm so close to the end. I'm going to finish it. It's a whole concept. The art is good. The dialogue is fine, but somehow it doesn't quite gel for me. I don't know what it is. It's just, I guess I wanted to see more initially of Keanu Reeves' character, Unate, sort of working for the government and being an agent and getting to know his personality a little better before we do all this deep lore about him. So that's my one complaint. But it's breezy. It's an action-based breezy book. I give it a light recommendation. I picked up the first trade paperback of Grimm. I read the first issue and I really liked it. And the rest of the issues are no exception. It deals with people who sort of work as reapers. Death itself, they're more just like hourly employees in the afterlife. And the main character has, a big mystery behind her that slowly gets revealed in this. Jessica Harrow. Likeable protagonist, cool premise, nice art. Yeah, it's a recommend. Oh, I didn't really get to read this yet. I picked up a back issue of the first 6 issues of Warlock. This was like a reprint series, pulling together all the important Adam Warlock stories. I wanted to refresh myself on that before Guardians of the Galaxy 3 came out, so I still need to read that, actually. Okay, so now we're in this week's comics. That was last week's. Riddler Year One. If you're on this, you're like, well, how good could it be if it's written by Paul Dano, the actor that played Riddler? Well, this guy, instead of keeping a journal of notes on who his character would be, he created a backstory for his character, like a lot of actors will on a film or a TV show, but wrote it as a comic book. And DC was like, you know what, this is good stuff. And they're right. This is a really interesting origin for the Riddler in the movie, The Batman. So, boy, it really feels like a breathed in 3-dimensional character who has talents, but he also has some dysfunctions, and it paints a picture of Gotham really ruining him. Like this, there's problems inherent in the city that could have been addressed, and he falls through the cracks in a way. Like, people aren't helping him where he needs help, support, mentally and job wise and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, in a way, he's like analogous to some sort of an incel, and it's great, folks. This is great. It's good stuff. It's a great origin for the Riddler, specifically in that movie, The Batman, which I liked as a movie. A little late, Devil Salute. There you go. Always happy to give people the Devil Salute. Timeless. I tend to pick up Marvel and DC's event comics here and there, even if I'm not necessarily too excited for them. I was pretty disappointed personally with things like Avengers, X-Men, Eternals. Some people loved it. For me, same thing with Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths. Just didn't connect with me very well. But this one so far, Timeless, about Kang the Conqueror searching for a lost moment in time, because he wants to conquer every moment, but there's like this 1 second that he can't access, and he's searching for why it's hidden, why it's inaccessible to a time traveler. It's not too bad, and it helps you understand this particular version of Kang. Uses a bunch of different artists, though. They're mostly good, but it's a little weird that, like, for one story they needed to use something like 5 different artists. But whatever, I actually gave this a recommend. I kind of like this a lot. I was surprised. Written by, is it Jed McKay? Who, a lot of people said that his Moon Knight in 2022 was a very good run. I haven't read that yet, but Jed McKay is getting a lot of acclaim. I don't necessarily have an idea for a Pacepot origin per se, but I actually, because I was joking around about it so much, I think I do have a good Pacepot Pete story, a single good. If I ever had the opportunity to convince Marvel, not as the Trapster or anything, as calling himself Pacepot Pete. I mean, he called himself that for a reason. I've got an idea for a story that I don't think has been done with a supervillain, but like would be completely in character and fit the Marvel universe, but like definitely something. I do have an idea. I like that. Yeah, Kang is lucky he doesn't live in the Doctor Who universe. Totally agree. He'd be outwitted by the Doctor, that's for sure. Everybody outwits or can't be outwitted by the Doctor. Saying the exact opposite of what I meant to. You ever see that classic, I think it was drawn by Jack Kirby, issue of Captain America, where he's fighting, it might be the Red Skull, it might be somebody else, but he's going, only one of us is going to walk out of here under his own power, and it won't be me. And that's what he says as he like hits the guy with his shield while jumping back. Captain America says, and it won't be me. He's saying the exact opposite of what he meant to say, but he's saying it with such conviction. It's a hilarious, out of context comic book moment. I love it. Murder World Spider-Man. Yo, Ray Fox and Jim Zub have such a killer concept here. It's so timely, where Arcade, the supervillain who basically just has these death traps worlds full of robots that look like people, but instead of like superheroes, apparently he has like 200 people a year compete for one survivor, and that person will win $100 million. So we're getting to meet some really interesting new characters within the context of Murder World. It's so good, the twists and turns. This will remind you of comic book stories like Well, Battle Royale was turned into a comic, but was originally a book and then a movie. But it's a little like that. It's a little like Hunger Games, because Hunger Games is basically Battle Royale. Also, if you've been watching or read the manga Borderland, by the way, good Netflix show based on a manga. It's like that. She-Hulk did something interesting in this issue. She's got some new enemies that are trying to drain her gamma. They want to be perfect Hulks. Like they argue She-Hulk is the best Hulk out there. And it's a good argument because she's always sort of like, minus one or two small stories. She gets to have her own personality as well as the strength. So, and she's beautiful. She's not like monstrous. It's kind of like the perfect blend of gamma versus the Abomination, even the Hulk, Red Hulk, all these other gamma people. They're all monstrous, but not She-Hulk. And they want to be like her. So they're trying to drain her particular gamma. And this ally and recent romantic interest, Jack of Hearts, is going to die. And this book hasn't done it yet, but all of a sudden Rainbow Rowell has She-Hulk break the fourth wall, something she's done in a lot of her more comedic stories. This one's more been light adventure. And she's very upset because she's talking directly to us, the reader. She's like, this is what you always do to me. You give me something great and then you always tear it away. And that is sort of a trope in all of comics. You build up a relationship and then you have it break apart because that creates conflict and drama. But I kind of like what they did with it. It's really nice. So good issue. I definitely recommend this. I haven't seen them directly reference gamma-powered beings coming back from the dead in a little while, but I think that when Immortal Hulk ended, if I'm remembering right, they sort of permanently closed that green door that allows people to come back from the dead. So I think that that's over. I loved Immortal Hulk. That was a really strong run. Good 50-issue run. Yo, Damn Them All. Great book. It's a little bit like Constantine, but, because how is it like Constantine? Well, the main character is a British occultist that, just sort of works on the fringes of society with criminals and stuff, but knows all the ins and outs of summoning demons and stuff like that. But this time it's a woman who was trained by her uncle, who was a great occultist, but was mysteriously killed. And all of a sudden, all these people have access these days to demons from hell to do their bidding, but they haven't had to do any work. There are just these coins out in the world. And if you own the coin, you can control that demon. But magic should not be that easy. So she's investigating how this is happening because you just know things are going to go to crap at some point. This is a really fun, cool, badass book. Cy Spurrier, he's written a lot of good stuff. Charlie Adler, of course, most people will know him from his years on Walking Dead. But anyway, I do recommend this. It's really cool. Yo, this is probably my pick of the week. Yeah. Issue 3 of Neil Gaiman and Mark Buckingham's Miracle Man: The Silver Age. This is the first issue that they never got to publish. They drew it all, and the nice thing is they've got supplemental materials, and they show Mark Buckingham's original pencils for you to compare. He redid all these issues, or I should say he's redone 3 issues because this is the 3rd one, and moving forward it will be new. He was damn good in 1990. He was damn good back then, but boy, he's really good now. It's an interesting comparison if you ever want to sort of study how to make a comic book better, which you really get from experience more than anything else. Yeah, this is really cool. We're getting to see a world that should be perfect because Miracle Man has solved all the world's problems, but it's still pretty creepy. It's still pretty weird. And young Miracle Man is just entering this world and seeing it, through fresh eyes. And he's going to, he seems to be having visions of Kid Miracle Man, who in the Miracle Man series became really evil and horrible And it feels like somehow he might come back. This is really emotional and fascinating. It's really more sci-fi than superhero. It's told with superhero archetypes, but at its heart, this is science fiction, speculative fiction. What would a world look like if a superhero like Superman actually solved all the problems? What happens at that point? Like, what does humanity do? It's really cool. It's really cool. This one caught me by surprise. I didn't know it was coming out. Book of Slaughter. It's basically a graphic novel one-shot by the original Something is Killing the Children team of James Tynion and Werther Dell'Edera. But it's telling us a story about one of the House of Slaughter members deciding to potentially change from being what's called a white mask, who works in a team, to being a black mask, who's sort of their elite soldiers that operate on their own hunting monsters. And it's got a lot of the history, which we've been hinted at for the last 2 years, but this is how the world works. If you are enjoying Something is Killing the Children, this book will really give you a little bit more insight into how the world is working. So not strictly necessary to enjoy Something is Killing the Children, but if you really like it, you're probably going to want to read this book because it gives you a lot more about the world. I assume you're talking about Miracle Man, the issue 2 ending, hit me out of nowhere. Yeah. I'm assuming that's what you're talking about. It's really good. Nice on the wrapped up. This is issue 12. Overall, I think I prefer James Tynion's work on Something is Killing the Children to Nice House on the Lake. Nice House on the Lake is a good sort of horror story of 12 people trapped in like this perfect mansion that can give them anything that they need or want, but they learn that the world has been ended by these, I don't know what to call them. They could be aliens, they could be supernatural creatures. And like their friend has always been one of them. And he like went through his life being like his favorite 12 people that he would be able to sort of protect by placing them in this sort of enclosure. Who knows? It might not even be on Earth. It's not clear exactly what it is. All I can say is it started a lot scarier, and then it sort of got into explaining itself maybe a little too much. Maybe. There's still a lot unexplained, and it looks like they might do sort of a sequel series to show where things go. But this does provide a certain measure of closure for the main characters. It's just, I think with 12 main characters, I was expecting a few more of them to get killed off, which isn't really something that happens, to be honest. So like the first 2/3, I thought moved at a really good pace, and then it slowed down a little. But if you read this in trade paperback as one story, you'd probably get a lot more out of it than what it gives you monthly. This probably is one that you'd benefit from reading all at once. Philip, following up on what Robinson said about issue 2 of Miracle Man, the Silver Age. Yeah, it was a 30-year cliffhanger because the next issue was illustrated, but the publisher went out of business, and then the rights got totally confusing and borked. It's taken like just over 30 years for this Gaiman and Buckingham story to be completed. I never thought I'd see anything like that. And let me jump back to that idea because I want to follow up with something. 2022 gave me 2 very interesting things that I never thought I'd see. One was Miracle Man actually coming back and moving forward. I knew that was a possibility ever since Marvel sort of obtained the rights back in, I don't know, 2017 or something, but it was slow. I was like, for some reason it's not moving forward. Maybe there's still legal rights. Maybe it's never going to happen. Another book that came out in 21 and 22 was The Last Ronin, Ninja Turtles, The Last Ronin, which was plotted by Eastman and Laird. It was an old story of theirs. I never thought I'd see something where they teamed up again. It's kind of cool to get like two comics like that are about like 30 plus years old seeing completion. I just never expected that within, if it doesn't have a year or two, it's probably done. It's probably that's all we're going to get. But yeah, we got both of those. And it makes you wonder if some of these like amazing unfinished projects could ever come back. Now, the one I'd love to see come back, but definitely won't, is Big Numbers, which was a book written by Alan Moore, art by Bill Sienkiewicz. But I think Alan Moore is absolutely done with comics, so I don't think that could ever come back, unfortunately. They published, I think, 3 issues of 12, but it was very slow to come out. Look it up sometime. Big Numbers was a really interesting concept. It was going to show what a huge mall did to impact a small English community over time. Just to know a lot of the people that lived there and see over the years how industry and, you know, capitalism and stuff changes the world in a very realistic manner, which may sound kind of modest in its ambitions, but honestly, it's kind of epic in its intimacy with those people. And yeah. No, Battle Chasers never finished either. There's a lot of unfinished comics out there, so you never know. This one I don't know. Dead Eyes, Dead Rabbit? I'm afraid I don't know that one. Sure. Look, I'll take any Bill Sienkiewicz. I'll take any Bill Sienkiewicz. So yeah. Look, I'm not too far. I don't have too many more to go through. Batman Beyond the One. Yes, of course I recommend this. At least for the artwork. It's gorgeous. But it's also a really fun remixing of both Batman and Batman Beyond's mythology. So you don't have to be familiar with any previous iteration, but if you are, it's fun to see the twists and turns in this. For instance, just one example, in this world, Jason Todd was the original Robin, and Dick Grayson was the second Robin. It changes some dynamics in some pretty interesting ways, just that little thing. I hate that I say so much as my pause thing. But anyway, we do have a ton of Robins all teaming up, and that's kind of cool. We got 1, 2, 3 Robins here. Dick Grayson's also in it, and there's Batgirl, Barbara Gordon. So a bunch of them. That's really fun. Oh, would I do an episode on James Herron? Potentially, sure. Yeah, Ultra Mega, yeah. I would potentially, yeah. I don't have a plan right now. I've got a lot of topics that I do have plans for on comic tropes. It's intimidating. What's this? Let's see. Secret Agent says, Happy Hogmanay from Scotland. Am I mispronouncing that? I don't really know that one. I don't really know that. I've heard that before, I've seen it in print is what I should say, but I don't really know exactly how to pronounce it or exactly what that celebration is. I'll look it up later, but if anyone wants to explain it, I love like for. Sorry, let me try to show that. It's going a little slow there. There we go. Yes, to answer your question, yes, absolutely. Tim Drake Erasure. I don't think that's what it's going for. It just isn't focused on that aspect. It's not trying to tell every aspect of Batman's history. And there have been a lot of Robins, unfortunately, in a way. There's been a lot. It also doesn't have Damian Wayne or, spoiler. They've been Robins. It doesn't have them. But yeah. Oh, it's just your way of saying Happy New Year? Oh, cool. Okay, so it's just Scottish for like Happy New Year? Happy New Year. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That's awesome. And thank you very much Void. That's really nice of you. Creepshow. If you like horror, this is good horror. I recommend it. I'll keep this quicker. Sergeant Rock versus Army of the Dead. I recommend this too. Bruce Campbell and Eduardo Risso are creating a fantastic Sergeant Rock story. Who knew Bruce Campbell could write comics so well, like at least with existing characters? This definitely feels authentic to the way each of Easy Company talks. Really good dialogue, Bruce. I like it. Yo, Asadora. This made my top 10 list of 2022. This is the new issue. Came out just before the end of the year. It's great. Asadora. Look, you can watch my top 10 list of the year if you want to have an idea of what this is. But the art is gorgeous. It's funny. It's interesting. I read this so damn fast. I mean, this has everything. It has government intrigue. It has the Olympics and training for it. It has pro wrestling, female pro wrestling. It has kaiju monsters. It has interpersonal drama. It has somebody trying to become a professional singer. It has so many interesting characters doing interesting things that all intersect in a very organic way. Love Asadora. So good. So good. And I've been reading a bunch of manga, to be honest. I've caught up on what Viz has reprinted of Fist of the North Star. This volume 7 also just came out this past week. Reading this stuff, it's interesting. You definitely see how this was influential to other violent action manga like Berserk. So obvious the influences once you start reading it. It's really cool. It's really cool. And finally, for manga, I found this on sale, Lone Wolf and Cub. So I finally started reading this. Kazuo Koike and Goseki Kojima. Again, you read this and this is so influential to other manga. The main character is, of course, he's a great fighter, but he's also really clever. He's always outsmarting opponents that are out to sort of trick him out of money or his life. And, you know, he's such a perfect fighter. His only weakness is that he carries his 3-year-old son around with him. So that's his weakness, you know? But it's great. Isn't this interesting though, that Dark Horse opted to print this at such a small scale? Like, look at that. Like, that is small. And they did print it left to right. So I don't know if these images have been flipped or not, to be honest. Oh, yeah. When Tommy Nickel says that this Fist is like JoJo, yeah, definitely see that. Like, when I read Fist of the North Star, all of a sudden, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and Berserk come into sharper focus in terms of what they were building on for ideas. The perfect, you know, like martial arts that the characters in this can do remind me so much of the breathing techniques that the people in JoJo can do to get like perfect martial arts. It's pretty cool. And finally, this was the first comic I read for 2023. I got the first 6 issues of Craig Thompson's latest autobiography, which is called Ginseng Roots. This is the guy that's written stuff like Habibi, Goodbye Chunky Rice, Blankets. Love Craig Thompson. Beautiful artwork, beautiful style. This is talking about his childhood as a poor kid in the Midwest and how he and his younger brother were basically sort of forced, although they didn't like complain that much, but forced to harvest ginseng. That was like they were the ginseng capital of America. And it's surprisingly interesting seeing what that was like. I really love it. You are definitely not blocked, Clay. I don't know why you accidentally got blocked before. All I can think is that maybe I fat fingered it when I was trying to block a chat bot. But I'm sorry about that. I don't know what it was about. Yeah, ginseng is amazing. Tick Goblin, you can order the first 6 issues on Amazon. Craig Thompson sells it, I think, directly there. It's not cheap. Each issue is like $6, but I think you can get the first 6 for 30, so there's a small discount there. Something like that. Oh, hey, Jim is here. Ginseng Roots is really incredible. Isn't it great? I don't know if you were here earlier, Jim, but I did manage to find your cover for Ninja Funk. So that was fun. That was fun. Hopefully I can carve out some time in the new year to come down and see you for a coffee or something. That would be awesome. All right, so that was a lot of comics, wasn't it? That took a little longer than usual. But let's get into the news while I sort of sketch and ink Yor Forger from Spy Family. That's what I'm going to do today. I've got like a light drawing here. In fact, some of these, I'm looking at it on screen and you can barely see the underdrawing. You can only see sort of outlines that I did. I'm just trying to see where I want to put these comics. And then I'll get into the news of the week. All right. There we go. Craig said that the last issue is going to be a longer wait and a larger issue. I'm content to wait for it. Craig Thompson, pretty talented guy. Got to meet him a bunch of times back in like the very early 2000s when he was doing publicity for blankets. Yeah, you know what? I must have an original sketch inside my copy of Blankets upstairs. That was a book for a while I was buying for people that had never read comics before. I was like, try this. And it got a lot of people interested in what comics could be. All right, I've got a brush. And let me bring up the of the week. Here we go. I'm going to add something to the stream. There we go. Moritaka says, I'm reading the first volume of Spy Family. Absolutely loving it. Can't wait to get into the anime now that the whole season is out. It's so good. Oh, yeah, if we're talking about news of the week, I guess we could just mention Jeremy Renner, Hawkeye, among other roles. I guess he's in critical but stable condition. I think he was like snow plowing his driveway, something like that. And the details aren't very specific, but he got seriously injured and airlifted to a hospital. And all I've seen said is that he's in critical but stable condition. Sounds pretty serious. Yeah, hit by a snowplow, huh? That's too bad. Let's see. First, we'll talk about payments because we went into the end of 2022 talking about Aftershock Comics, declaring bankruptcy, not paying people. Well, that has sort of helped prompt some conversation among creators that they also haven't been getting paid if they've been doing work for heavy metal. And heavy metal, man, I loved that book in the 90s. I'm not going to lie. That was my introduction to so many European comic book artists. That was the place I ever saw, like Moby, Drew Lay, Enki Ball, so many people. Anyway, the American version of heavy metal that we get here was bought earlier this year by Whatnot. And so they're publishing and they've got like an app for buying and selling stuff. Hold on, I'm going to pause with this super chat. Yan, thank you very much, by the way. Thank you for the super chat. I think that maybe you already covered it, but is there a chance that you'll do a retrospective on either the Archie or Image TMNT runs? The Archie books were surprisingly violent and mature. Never say never. I love Ninja Turtles. I'd probably want to like refocus on the work by Eastman and Laird at some point, and also the more recent run by IDW before I discussed, say, Archie. But I'm up for talking about anything Ninja Turtles. I love the Ninja Turtles. So I'm always up for that. Sorry it hasn't arrived, Chaos, but I know that new issues are still coming out. I know I saw them on the stands at Barnes & Noble, for instance, like a week ago. Let's see. Renner's doctor neighbor had to apply a tourniquet to his leg. Well, that's pretty serious. That's pretty serious. Anyway, let me get back to heavy metal here. So, yeah, some people were saying that they weren't getting paid. Haters were about that. There have been podcasts and tweets and stuff, and it's been the holidays. Some of the news outlets reached out to heavy metal, and they've got like, a new chief financial officer, also called, interesting, the chief restructuring officer and corporate secretary. So I think he's somebody outside of comics that was brought in to like, really help manage the finances and stuff. Anyway, he's got an automated message during the holidays that was saying payments are on hold. That's probably not what creators want to hear. But a spokesperson has tried to clarify this. This is their official statement from Heavy Metal. They say, due to a sum of receivables not being collected on time, our payments to creators have slipped further than what's acceptable. Luckily, we have a dedicated and committed investor group whose support is allowing us to pay all our creators before Christmas while we catch up on our interviews. And I haven't seen any follow-up since then to confirm whether that actually happened or not. I'm hopeful, but I don't know because I just couldn't find anything else. I couldn't really find any other discussion of whether people are being paid or not paid. But it's not an awesome trend that publishers are having issues paying their creators, because you have nothing without the work by the creators. So I feel like they should be paid first before anybody else, what I think. But I think that printers and distributors and ad agencies end up getting pushed ahead. I thought that was at least worth mentioning. Does heavy metal actually have good stories, or is it magazine level material? Sometimes it has excellent material, just to be clear. Some of it's like, it all depends on what you're into, actually, before I say anything else. But I always liked at least the artwork, getting to see French and English and Spanish and Italian artists, because it was different and it was really well rendered. I haven't really read heavy metal for a long time now. I read it when Kevin Eastman was running it. That was my era. Okay, let's see. Translation, our books don't break even yet, but we have a bit of investor money left. Maybe, if we're being cynical, maybe. Happy holidays, payments on hold, season's greetings. It's not great. Oh, here we go. Yeah, Jeff Darrow had a story in heavy metal many years ago called Bourbon Tret that was some of the coolest art I've ever seen. I've got to do an episode about Jeff Darrow. He's so good. He's so amazing. So unique, too, like at least as far as American creators go. But you can definitely see some of that influence of the style that you get with French comics and stuff, that sort of uniformity of line art. We'll move on. I've got other news that's very interesting. Let's start with what I've got in the title. Buy a job in comics? Well, yesterday morning, that was a possibility. Basically. I don't know how many of you guys know about Bad Idea Comics. They're a relatively new publisher. But yesterday, they did, come on, it was for promotion and like the just get the conversation going in the social media sphere and everything. But they were saying you could buy a job to get a credit on the comic without actually writing or drawing anything. I guess if you want money and don't feel super confident about your talent, that's one way in comics. Let me go into more specifics. Yesterday morning on their site, what they did is they said the first 5 people to email them and pay them $1,000 each would win a credit. They would get a credit in their comics as an employee of Bad Idea. They would get official business cards, and they would be responsible for proofreading. I'll be honest, I've never really heard of having to pay for a job. I feel that if you do a job, you should get paid. I've never even been a fan of unpaid internships, which were definitely like way normal when I was a kid and when I was a teenager. Like that was a normal way to break in, is unpaid intern work so that you could put it on your resume. And now we're just getting to the point where like, no, how about you pay for that? Anyway, Bad Idea does a bunch of gimmick stuff. You guys may remember that they were the ones that had the invisible comic. Like, it was a slabbed comic with no comic in it that they got graded. I'm pretty sure that the, what's it called that grades comics? A bunch of different organizations, actually. They said they won't do that anymore. But so they come up with gimmicks like that. I got here. Would you guys want to get that credit, even if it was less than $1,000? Say it was $100. Would you pay $100 to get into the industry so that you could go around and show a comic and say like, hey, I'm credited. This is something I worked on. Is that a foot in the door to you? To me, I have to be honest, I would not do that. I have done unpaid proofing for people that I consider friends. I did that for, I guess I still get all of Robert Kirkman's books, but I did like the whole run of Invincible and Walking Dead, things like that. I was proofreading those books and I wasn't getting credited and I wasn't getting paid, but it was for a friend and I was happy to do that. So for a friend, it's a little different, but I would never have paid to get a credit. That's just me. Isn't paying into a job an upside down triangle thing? That's not exactly what a pyramid scheme is. A pyramid scheme is like where the only real way to make money is by bringing in more people that pay to you. So like if you could get this credit, but like then you had a responsibility to get 5 more people each month to also do that. Otherwise you'd get the credit taken away. That would be a pyramid scheme. It feels weird to buy your way into the industry. I think so. I don't know if I'm being weird there. This is why I put it out to the audience right now. I'm not sure I understand the point. I don't mean this in a put down way, but why not do it like Kickstarter, Patreon? Thanks for the support. Here's your name in the book. Well, yeah, I guess, this is giving you an actual sort of job title of proofreader, something like that. Actually, they said you can even invent your own title if you do this. So they were going to take yesterday the first 5 people that did this. So it's probably too late if you wanted to do this, but I thought I'd bring this up as a conversation piece. We have to pay to work for them, but are we getting paid? There was nothing in their post. If you go to the Bad Idea website, you look at news, it was the news from yesterday. I didn't see anything in there about getting paid. It said that you get a 1-year contract as their employee, but it doesn't say anything about getting paid. Their slab no comic reminds me of Red Letter Media's Nuki VHS for currently $80,000. But that can't be a real bid, can it? Probably not. Yeah. Red Letter Media put out a really funny and interesting video this week talking about graded VHS tapes and whether it has to do with demand, perceived demand, supply, etc. And they've collected something like 180 tapes of this really terrible E.T. ripoff movie called Nuki. So they took their best one, sent that to a grading company, and then to artificially decrease the supply, they destroyed all the rest of their copies of Nuki. It's a pretty funny and interesting video. There's more to it where they talk about valuations for things like that. It'll be, and then, so yeah, their current one is up for auction, supposedly going for $80,000. I have better things to do with $1,000. Me too. Me too. I'll go out to some really nice dinners before I did that. Paying money is not a substitute for real experience and skills. No, it's not a substitute for the skills, but would it get your foot in the door enough, do you think? I don't know. I don't know. Bad idea. It's in the name. They're playing into it. Nice to see you here, EJ. I really liked your video showing your sketch of Leapfrog that you just posted. That was really interesting. You work so fast sometimes, dude. It's amazing. Amazing. Flowers, yeah. Oh, they also said that if somebody offered more than $1,000, that they might even take more than 5 people. So we'll see. Are they going to buy a timeshare? Well, let's move forward, because actually the next I have is something. Instead of paying to get a job in comics and paid. This is kind of cool. So I don't know how many of you read any comics on Substack. It's a subscription service where you get comics and you usually get behind the scenes artwork, or you get commentary by the creators that have set these up. In a way, it's a lot like Patreon, but it's a dedicated sort of service to getting emailed the comics by creators that you like. And there's a lot of big name creators. I would say the biggest is probably the trio of writers Jonathan Hickman, Mike Del Mundo, and Mike Huddleston. They created 3 Moons, 3 Wolves, which is also known as or did I reverse that? Sorry, wolves. 3 Worlds, 3 Moons. I totally got that wrong in here. I totally got that wrong. Even here, like even if I didn't know it, I put in this image. I messed up here. I really hope that Jonathan Hickman does not somehow see this, because that is embarrassing. That is a really dumb mistake. I know what they're called. I totally know what they're called. It's called 3 Worlds, 3 Moons. And then I put 3 Moons, 3 Wolves. You know what I was thinking of is clearly that 3 Wolf Moon. That's clearly what I got in my head when I was typing. And I just messed up. I'm sorry, guys. That's disrespectful. That is an honest to God innocent mistake. But what I like about my mistake is that, like, the correct logo and stuff is right here. I had it just like right in front of me, and I still messed up. 3 Moons, 3 Wolves. I know that some of you guys might not find this that funny, but I just find it really dumb on my part. Well, that's the benefit of this being a live show as compared to like an edited piece on comic tropes. Anyway, these guys have a great Substack. And one cool thing that Jonathan Hickman does, and by the way, I like Jonathan Hickman quite a bit as a writer. I'm just going to put that out there. Yeah. But he tends to do script reviews by people that subscribe there. They can like write comic scripts, and he will give them an honest critique, which I think has a lot of value. Well, he said one thing we kept seeing by subscribers was, this is interesting and all, but we came here for 3 Worlds, 3 Moons comics. He's like, that's a good point. So they're going to change it up a little this month. Subscribers can pitch a comic idea, just a couple sentences. They're going to open a portal. I don't think it's open quite yet, but they're going to open a portal this month that you can see if you're a subscriber. You can pitch the idea. Hickman will choose 10 of those in February and March, and he will review each one of them, also valuable. 5 of them will be selected to move forward to do a short like scene, script a 3 to 5 page scene, and those people will get also $500 for that. Pretty good for people looking to break in. And then ultimately, one winner will be selected to write a full 20 page or so script, get paid $3,000 for it, and 3 Worlds, 3 Moons will hire an artist to draw it. So I would only do this if you're familiar with universe because they want it sort of set in their world that they're building. And you have to be subscribed. But I think that that's a pretty generous offer, personally. First, I would say if you're thinking of being a writer, even just an opportunity to get critiqued by somebody like Jonathan Hickman has a lot of value to it. But the opportunity to get paid a little bit of money and have your script like turned into a real comic, that's a pretty nice feather in your cap too for a resume. So curious what you all think of this. So good point. Do the creators keep all their rights? I don't think so. I think that, if this is one where you're pitching the idea and you agree to let it be part of their world, you probably get some rights. Like if it got adapted or something, I'm sure that they're not being like, no, we get it all. I don't think it's purely work for hire, but you're setting something in their world. So it's not just your story. Don't say I've always had this great idea for a story. No, you're trying to be a writer and work within certain confines, which is part of being a writer. Anyway, typing that typo as you were wearing 3 wolves and a moon t-shirt. I wish I was. Can I just pay them $3,000 to write a script for them? No, maybe a bad idea, but not at 3 worlds, 3 moons. Hey, R0X21XX, thank you for the super chat. You read Fairy Tale or any works by Hiro Mishima or familiar with his works? A art episode showing evolution is amazing from Fairy Tale to current Eden Zero. I'm not familiar with the work of Hiro Mishima. So thank you for the recommendation. I'll look into that. I'm reading a lot of manga these days, so totally interested. But as it stands now, I'm not familiar with it. Sorry. Yeah, they've produced a bunch of comics. Again, you have to be subscribed to their Substack. So, but yeah, they produce comics. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I thought that was basically the exact opposite of what was being offered by Bad Idea, where you could actually make some money and potentially break in. I thought that was kind of nice. And I wanted to share it because, if it's not too late, if you're really serious about looking for an opportunity, maybe you want to consider subscribing to that, familiarizing yourself and giving that a shot. And if not, that's okay too. But I wanted to at least pass it on because I thought it sounded like a very nice opportunity as far as these things in the industry tend to go. We'll move forward. Fairy Tale is about as long as One Piece. Oh my God, that sounds like a massive commitment. Yikes. I'm surprised Hickman hasn't turned fully to writing RPG books. It seems like what he really wants to do and just hasn't realized it yet. Well, I agree that he's good at world building and stuff like that, but I think that his stories are very well structured. I East of West, was it? I like that one. I really liked his sort of 2-year run on Avengers, like 2 Avengers titles building up to Secret Wars. I thought that was really cool. I just saw a text from a friend of mine that says Netflix is adding a Junji Ito documentary on something like the 19th of this month. That sounds awesome. I hadn't heard about that. That wasn't in my news, but I just saw that text come through, so I thought I'd throw that forward. That could be really, really cool. A Junji Ito documentary. Man, that guy's definitely made some huge strides in the West. I feel like I do see his books at a lot of bookstores and comic stores that don't typically sell manga. Maybe horror is an easier sell. I don't know. I like his work. I almost think that he's gotten so much publicity, I start to feel bad for some other people in the industry, but I'm happy. Like, I do like Junji Ito's work. So, wow, a Junji Ito documentary coming to Netflix. Sounds awesome. Yeah, right. 4 was also good. Eden Zero is better than Mashima, although both FT and DZ has quite a bit of fan service. Okay. Well, I guess if it's really long, it's almost hard to avoid that kind of stuff at a certain point. I've got a lot of news, so I better move forward. Comics industry, at least a lot of people are working hard to save Philadelphia's first comic book store. This is a place that's been around for over 46 years. That is a long time for a comic book store. It's called Fat Jack's Comic Crypt in a town in Rittenhouse, Pennsylvania. I've never been there. Just came across this story in like local news. It says that they're having tough times ever since the pandemic hit. And that's because of, I think, where they're positioned. They specifically, the owner said, they're not getting the same foot traffic to the businesses around them that they used to. So, I'm sure that they've got their regulars, but in terms of fresh eyeballs, fresh faces and stuff like that, it's decreased by something like 70% since the pandemic hit. Like it really hurt this shopping area that they're near. I'm sure that's every comic store owner's fear, like through no fault of their own, just like foot traffic changes and you're in your location, just like now what? But there was a comment in the local news by Nick Barucci, who has been very kind to me. He's the CEO of Dynamite Entertainment. They've got a lot of pretty successful books right now. James Bond is doing well. Gargoyles they just launched to a lot of fanfare. Of course, they've always got Vampirella and Red Sonja. So Nick said, quote, Fat Jack's has been such an institution in the comics industry. A lot of creators who first started working in comics actually started or were at Fat Jack's at a very young age. I know that Nick sold some artwork to donate a few $1,000s to Fat Jack's to help them get back on their feet. And meanwhile, there's also a GoFundMe that I put up here just in case you live in the area or you're in a position you want to help a comic book store that's been around for a long time. Basically, I guess some supporters organized this. They estimate the store needs these days about $20,000 to completely get back on its feet and be healthy, and they've raised half of that. I thought it was worth sharing. I think that comics overall are doing well, but comic book stores are having a tough time of it. There's no denying that they're having a tough time of it. We're coming out of the pandemic, but it's not completely over and the world has changed. There's a lot less in-person shopping everywhere. That's just a fact. So stores like that, so hard to find comic book stores. Ed Pescore should move to Philly, give them free advertising. I think he's in Pittsburgh, right? And I think he's pretty proud to be in Pittsburgh. Devastating loss if it can't be saved. That's depressing, Calais. I really, really hope that didn't happen. I'll look into that as soon as the show ends. Hey, I just realized my sister isn't here. What the heck? What the heckin' dog? I am very lucky to have NEC close by enough. Oh, dude. All right. Since we're talking about comic book stores, let me jump to just me here. I've got a story to tell. When I was on Christmas break, I went back to see my family in Massachusetts, and I took the time to go back to one of the first comic book stores I ever shopped at, which is New England Comics, aka NEC in Massachusetts, Quincy. And while I was there, I got to talk to the store manager who's been there since I was shopping there, pretty much, Doreen. And I got to talk to her because one thing I didn't know until very recently was she was the inspiration for Squirrel Girl, the Marvel Comics superhero. The superhero is named Doreen Green and has the ability to communicate with squirrels. Well, Doreen, the manager at NEC, same first name, of course, and she nursed a baby squirrel that had been injured back to health when the creator, the writer of Squirrel Girl, original writer, knew her. And yeah, so like she told me all about like, what it's like to raise a squirrel and how it took like, 6 months to a year or something of nursing it back to health, how she like let it back out into the wild, but like came back like a year later and saw it one time and it ran up and down her. Like it came out of the tree and it ran all over. So it definitely remembered her. And she says, the thing about squirrels is they will nip at anything that's sort of soft. So you got to stuff your hands in your pockets. Otherwise they'll like nip at your palms. So I got to talk to the real life Squirrel Girl. You should go to NEC. It's a really fun store. So, okay, Andrew Jefferson is saying Gosaku Ota just passed away. Let me look something up. Yep. This did just happen within the last 24 hours. Looks like the news is coming about 19 hours ago. Huh. Yeah. He worked on Mazinger Z, I know. I don't think he created it, but I know he worked on it. He's a cartoonist, illustrator, a manga artist. 74 years old. Ah. From pneumonia. Oh, that stinks. Oh, wait. No, the news came out today, but he passed away back on December 12th. So the news is coming out on that kind of slowly. Well, Japan seems to be like very careful about the, like news release. Anyway, I just wanted to share that story of getting to talk to the real life inspiration for Squirrel Girl. And I asked her, and I was like, do people ever come in and get you to sign Squirrel Girl comics and stuff? She's like, yeah, it's been known to happen. I was like, okay, that's cool. That's cool. There are worse things in life than having a superhero created after you. Oh yeah, ChemDog's talking about the writer who created it. I've met Will Murray, the writer of the original Squirrel Girl story. Illustrated, by the way, by Steve Ditko, worked for hire, but yeah. Had him sign some old Marvel black and white magazines of Remo Williams. That's unique. That's a unique one. Hey, look at that. Thank you for the super chat. Love the show. Very informative as always. I try. We're going to move forward, see what else we've got here for news. Hey, speaking of comic book stores, the Book Industry Charitable Foundation, also known as BINC, they've started a mental health program to benefit employees and owners of book and comic book stores. It's a stressful time. And it's just wonderful. At no cost to them, they can get short-term help now. This quote comes from Pam French, the executive director of the organization. And she explained, since the start of the pilot program, close to 300 members of the book and comics communities have received access at no charge or obligation up to 2 months, 8 sessions with a certified and licensed therapist via the BetterHelp platform. So if you work for a comic book store, and you just feel maybe like overwhelmed or depressed, anything like that, anxiety, you now have access, thanks to the BINC, to get some help. How fantastic is that? I think that's amazing. I think that's so cool. I just wanted to share that because even if it helped one person out there, like one person that's an employee or a store owner, like saw this, Hey, we were just talking about the last story there. Fat Chick's Comic Crypt. He's straight about using them here or something. You need somebody to talk. Thank you, Bink. Pretty awesome. Pretty nice. That's incredible. Yep. That's awesome of them to offer. Pretty great. Pretty awesome. Yeah. Had to pass that on. Too good not to share. So I try to put a few feel-good stories in here since, there's so much dark stuff in the world. I wanted to have at least a few nice stories mixed in that made me feel good about people helping each other. There's a few more fun things. Let's see here. Understandable. Not awesome, but understandable. Viz has announced that they are raising their subscription prices. We're talking about their online subscriptions, their digital comics. So Viz is huge comic company, humongous, because they distribute all the stuff from Weekly Shonen Jump. Shueisha is the publisher in Japan. The price is going up from $1.99 a month to $2.99. Okay, it's a jump from what it was. $3 a month still is not very much for all the comics that you get from them. I understand it. That's a lot to get access to. They do also point out this, though, in case any of you out there do have a subscription through them. Apparently, they're not going to take PayPal as an accepted form of payment anymore as of January 17th. So if that's the way you were paying for the subscription, you actually have to, that will likely end, or you can end it, but you'll have to choose a different payment method, like a credit card or something, or you can use the app and subscribe there, do automated payments. So just some of the comics that you get through Viz. These are huge titles. One Piece, Spy Family, Jujutsu Kaisen, Chainsaw Man, My Hero Academia. Some of the biggest comics in the last year are all through this. Anyway, maybe you don't know about them, but $2.99. What do you guys think? Is that a fair price for access to digital comics? I don't think that's very much. I'm surprised that it used to only be $1.99. To me, that says that they were targeting a pretty young demographic. That's what that says to me. People without as much disposable income. But that's a lot less than, say, like Marvel and DC, companies like that have. There were surveys about prices leading up to this. Okay, so they tried to sensitize their audience that this was something that would come. I kind of agree with you, Chad. It's a steal. Like, that still like going from $2 to $3. Okay, that's a 50% increase if we're talking percentages. But we're also talking $3 a month. It's a lot of comics that you get for that. That's a lot. That's a good value still. That's a good value. Yeah, it's not that big. I don't think. But, I wanted to bring it up for discussion. I was curious to, like, test the pulse and see what people think of it. It makes sense. Shonen Jump is squarely aimed at young kids, or at least theoretically. Yeah, exactly. At least theoretically. Although I will say, I enjoy just about everything in there. Well, maybe that's overstating it, because there's some that I sort of forget are in Shonen Jump. But I definitely read My Hero Academia, Spy Family, and Chainsaw Man. And I've read a bunch of One Piece. I've fallen way behind. I didn't get that far into it before I sort of fell off. I do want to read it all, but boy, it's a big undertaking. That is a big undertaking. Fair. Okay. That's more than fair. Oh, we always have to have 1% here. This is highway robbery. Well, then it's highway robbery. You got robbed. If my name was Rob, that's what I'd say whenever I beat someone in a game. I'd go, you got robbed. I'm drawing some of Yor's really long bangs that she has. And she's got these sort of funny little, I don't even know what to call them, like tails, like on the front of her head. She's got a very unique hairstyle. So bear with me as I draw something a little delicate here, and then I'll jump back into the news of the week, the comic book news of the week. Oh, there's so much. How's the weather where you folks are? It isn't that cold or anything here where I am, to be honest. We had one sort of day of snow and a little bit of ice while I was out of town, but overall, honestly, it's not that cold of a winter. Not too bad. I like them easy. I'd buy $1. Perfect quote. What's the monthly price for Paste? Well, you're basically on Paste Plus, so it's basically free. If you want to do a super chat, I'm always grateful. That helps support the show, but it's basically free. Snowed yesterday, all melted. High 40s. Pretty dull. Wish the snow had stayed longer. I watched some videos of some of the snow in Japan. Boy, like I was looking at specifically at some huge onsens just like a week or so ago, and the snow coming down. Boy, did it look pretty. Steve, welcome. Sorry I am late. Snake Eyes versus all Ninja Turtles. That's an interesting battle. Let's see. I would say if it's Snake Eyes versus all 4 of the Turtles would pull out the victory. They would. Because Raphael and Leonardo are both close to being able to go toe-to-toe with Snake Eyes. And when they need to, the Ninja Turtles work very well as a team. But against any one of them, Snake Eyes would probably pull out the victory. Because when he needs to, he can fight lethal. You know, he's dangerous. That's my best guess. Thank you for that introspective question. For the briefest second I heard nudes of the week and my interest was piqued. Well, sorry to bore you. Talking about news of the week. No nudes here. Sorry. You get what you pay for. How many turtles could Snake Eyes beat? He could beat. If it was Michelangelo and Donatello, he could possibly beat the 2 of them, but any other 2, he wouldn't win. It would probably two most combinations 2 would be enough to take down Snake Eyes. Certainly 3 or 4 would. That's what I'm going to go with. Now with new news. Whoop. Netflix is developing a City Hunter show. I like City Hunter. I haven't read tons of it, I have to admit, but City Hunter was a manga talking about from 85 to 91. That was created by Tsukasa Hojo. Tsukasa Hojo did that manga, and it was about a detective, the titular City Hunter himself, who was Ryo Seiba. And the story starts with his detective partner getting killed, and his daughter, Kaori, starts working with Ryo, and she gets jealous whenever he, gets in romantic relationships with other women and stuff like that. So the book has romance, comedy, a lot of action. It's pretty cool. the character of Rio grew up a bunch in America, actually, after his parents were killed down in South America when he was very, very young. And then he moved to Tokyo and got a job as a detective. Let's see, it's sold over 50 million copies. So that's a popular manga. And it has been adapted before, just to be clear. If you've ever seen, what's the Jackie Chan movie? Jackie Chan actually adapted City Hunter. That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah. Jackie starred as City Hunter in an adaptation. I guess I can't say that it's one of Jackie's best. It's pretty silly as far as Jackie Chan movies go, which is definitely saying something, but it's not too bad. There's some good fights in it. There's a really cool sequence where the characters all become Street Fighter 2 characters. That's pretty surreal and weird, but it's kind of fun. Anyway, Netflix has announced that they're making a live action adaptation for 2024, and they've hired actor Ryohei Suzuki to play the titular character. He is on some sort of medical drama that's really popular in Japan these days. So they cast somebody that's pretty popular. I don't know how many of you guys have seen City Hunter. Let's see. X says, would love to see some other studio tackle City Hunter. You mean like as a movie? Yep, I've seen all of Jackie's movies. Well, maybe not in the last 10 years, actually, but anything in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s I've seen. Meow, thank you so much. Thank you for the super chat. The slight downside is that City Hunter could not really fly on American TV. That being said, did you watch Shinjuku Eye? Look nice, but the animation is a tad bit too clean. Also, its opening has the best piano riff ever. No, I have not seen Shinjuku Eye, but I know City Hunter is set in the Shinjuku area, which I think is a pretty cool area of Japan. Anyway, I think it could be fun. It can be adapted. Yeah. Sometimes the main character could be a little bit of a perv in his romantic but I don't think that that's necessarily inherent to making a good adaptation. Like, the humor is a little dated. That's all I'll say. It's a little dated. Herbie Popnecker versus Galactus is the only correct answer. Answer to what? I feel like you just told me 42, and I don't know the question for life, the universe, and everything. Herbie Popnecker versus Galactus. Herbie would win, by the way. Herbie would win. Should have clarified Shinjuku Eye is the recent City Hunter movie. I haven't seen that then. I haven't seen that one. No. Is it good? Is it worth seeing? I'll see it if it's good. No, Wally, I don't have a Letterboxd account. I love movies, and I do like critiquing them, so I probably should, but it's really just more a question of time. Let me, you guys know I love my wife, guys, sometimes. Chrissy was really generous to me for Christmas. She got me, I feel bad saying this, but I've wanted for like 2 years now. I've wanted a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox. I haven't been able to find one. She got me both for Christmas, but I haven't had any time to play them yet because I'm doing the show or I'm at CarMax selling cars. I have so little free time. So, like, movies and video games are things that I love. But I really just don't have the time for them. In order to play video games more or watch more films, what I need to do is hire an editor so that I can, like, take a little more time to myself when I make the show. But that's, editors are really expensive if you want to get a good one. And if I did that, I'm at the point where I wouldn't make any, I might even lose a little money. So I have to still do the editing myself right now. It's frustrating. Oh, I saw that one. I saw Foreigner. Yeah, as far as recent Jackie Chan movies go, that's good. It's not his most, kung fu action-packed one, but it's a good movie. It is. Pierce Brosnan was good in that. Have I seen every comic book movie? No, definitely not. Like, there's some obscure ones out there that I haven't seen. I haven't seen Faust or G-Men from Hell, the original Tales from the Crypt from like the 70s or something. I haven't seen that. There's a bunch that I haven't seen. I don't know if I've seen something like Josie and the Pussycats now that I think of it. So there's definitely gaps in my comic book adaptation. I also haven't seen Road to Perdition now that I think of it. I haven't seen Road to Perdition. I've seen a lot of them, to be fair. I've seen a lot because I can even think of the ones that I'm missing. But yeah. I really recommend the Last of Us remake for PS5 if you get the time. Boy, that The Last of Us definitely is one of my all-time favorite video games. Just a beautiful, beautiful story. So yeah. Does Toxic Avenger count as a superhero movie? Yeah, I'd say it doesn't count as a comic book movie, but it counts as a superhero movie. Yeah. I saw Dylan Dog. Oh, you know what else I got for Christmas? My mom went to Italy several months ago. She and her husband went to Italy for a quick vacation. And so for Christmas, she had thought ahead and she did pick me up some Italian comics, some fumetti, including 2 Dylan Dog books. So that was kind of fun to get. I don't read Italian, so I'm like sort of struggling to understand them all, but it was still nice of her to think of, and it's just cool to have. An editor can pay me $1,000 for that job. Exactly. That's what I got to do. No, PS5s are still, in my opinion, pretty darn hard to come by. Where did she go this time? This visit was Florence and Venice. I've been to Venice a long time ago, but I haven't been to Florence. I'd love to go back to Italy someday. Hopefully someday I can do that. Whoa, thank you for the super chat. Speaking of PlayStation, have you seen anything of Hellboy Web of Weird? It's from a small studio that's working indirectly with Mignola. Check out the trailer if you haven't. Looks great. I will check out that trailer. Love Mignola, love Hellboy, love video games. Didn't know about that one. It's so funny how some of these things can just totally miss you. Let's see. If that's on the table, I'll up my Patreon tier to edit an episode. You'll pay $1,000 to have permission to edit? Yeah, it's the perfect way. I get paid for doing less work. No, I always want to be fair to people. Like I'd never like make a comic without paying the artist a page rate. I would never try to get an episode edited for free. I wouldn't be comfortable with that. Expensive though. Whoa, Nick! You missed it. I mentioned you earlier, man. Look at that. Nick's here, everybody. Happy New Year to Chris and all fans. Please hit that thumbs up button. It helps Chris's algorithm. That's true. It does help a lot. When you either leave a comment on a video that's been finished or you hit like, those are all signs that YouTube is going to be more likely to share your video to somebody new. There's always lots more people that haven't seen your content, so that does help. Likes are free and support is priceless. Wishing everyone a safe and happy one. Well, Happy New Year to you, Nick. I don't know if it's your news story I was talking about was Tria's trying to help check you a comment. Is that your local comic shop? Because I know that you did some stuff to try to help them as they try to weather the pandemic. But thank you for dropping in, Nick. And thank you for the super chat. That's so nice of you. I'll keep everything else quiet. We can talk later. But thank you for showing up, man. I appreciate it. You're great. Let's see. Recently watched the Comic Tropes episode on Bernard Krigstein. That's one that I'm very proud of. One of your best episodes, I think. Hearing about Master Race was fascinating. Yeah, that was one where I just wanted to do a deep dive on something very small. So yeah. Oh, here's Nick. It is my local store. I started buying 40 years ago. Mike sold me wholesale when I was 13 to sell at shows. Oh, that's really nice. Well, hopefully that GoFundMe helps. I saw that you sold some original art to help that store. I think that, you know, long term comic book stores are still the lifeblood of the industry. I think they're very important for being an easily accessible way for new readers to find comics, and for existing readers to feel like there's a bit of a community for them, to feel like they belong. So I do think comic book stores are very important. Good luck with your local comic store. I hope that they can do well. Super duper chat. Yeah, superhero chat. Exactly. That wasn't just a super chat. That was a superhero chat. That was a super duper chat. Thank you guys. Thank you. By the way, somebody mentioned City Hunter could be problematic for today, and you're right. Like, you know, like the I mentioned, Rio can be a bit of a perv, but I think that you can update that stuff and it still can tell some really great action and romance and comedy stuff without pushing it quite that hard. That's an element that's easy to sort of phase out a little. I thought this was just interesting. DC Comics announced their most read comics on their digital app, which is DC Infinite. So here were the top 10. I'm going from like the number 10 up to the number 1 most read comic. Dark Knights of Steel, number 1. I didn't read that one. Batman, number 404. That's the first part of Batman Year One by Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli. Great issue. Love it. It holds up great. If you've read, like, people of Frank Miller, look back at the stuff that he was doing in the 80s and you'll get it. He was doing some amazing stuff. The Batman from the New 52, Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. Batman number 1 is number 8. Batman 89, number 1. DC versus Vampires, number 1. Batman Gotham Knights Gilded City. Yeah, a lot of Batman. Now it makes sense why, like, DC has so much Batman on the shelves, because boy, do they have a lot of Batman and Batman related titles on the shelves. Nightwing number 78. Batman Fortnite 0 point number 1. DC Pride number 2022. Interesting. That was their second most read book of the year. That's impressive. And Sandman number 1, which I think that shows just how many people do get interested in comics when there's a good adaptation into another medium, film, TV, etc. For a book from like 1989 to be the number 1 most read book online in 2022. That must mean that they probably sold a lot of older trade paperbacks as well, and a lot of comic books sold a lot of original copies. They must have. That's really interesting to see that metric. It's really interesting. 70% Batman. When I look at the shelf, that does not seem far off. Boy, do they have a lot. This is interesting. Void Coupon. I remember this as soon as you're saying it. That's right. They had Sandman and DC Pride free to read for a bit. That had to help. That definitely had to help a lot. Still shows that a lot of people took advantage of that. That's cool. No, that issue of Nightwing was not the single panel one. Wait. 80, was it 87 or 70? I think the single panel one was 87. And this one they say was the most read was 78. I think that was the beginning of towards the beginning anyway, of the Taylor Redondo run. Somebody else has to look that up while I'm doing this. Yeah, what is Nightwing number 78? What's the significance of that one off the top of my head? There's obviously something there, but I don't think that was the single. It might have been, but I don't know off the top of my head. Yeah, that was nice that Kevin Conroy was able to like actually write a comic book, before we lost him. That's pretty cool. It was about him and his relationship with Batman, and just his story of being a working gay actor. It was a good story. Yeah, it was good. If he had been around longer, I think he might have been able to write some more Batman. I really do. I think he was good enough. Thank you for the clarification. That is the start of the run. And that makes sense. All of these are like basically the start of a run. Like even this Batman 404, that was the start of the year one run. So yeah. Okay. So makes sense. Anyway, more trivia than anything else, but they released it as a news item, so I thought I'd share that. Let's see what else we've got here. Comicbook.com is an interesting website. I respect the folks there that are doing journalism and reporting on stories and writing, listicles and analysis and reviews. I do. But they had at least one very questionable award for best of 2022. All I can say is, so first of all, their staff announced this past week what they selected as the best of 2022. And a lot of these, I get why they're in there. Best Limited, Catwoman, Lonely City. Hadn't read that, have heard very good things. Fair enough. They had like 5 nominees for each of these, but I didn't want to overwhelm you with everything. I'm just going to talk about the winners. Best graphic novel, Ducks. Yeah, that makes sense. I had it in my top 10 list of the year. It's a great comic. Best writer, Chip Zdarsky. Wouldn't have been my choice, but I do like Chip Zdarsky a lot. And I guess what I need to do is apparently just hold people say it's really good run for saying something. Best artist, Greg Smallwood. Right on. That's awesome. That's awesome. I think his work in Human Target is incredible. Some of his best ever. Then they confusingly have a category for best cartoonist, which they've defined as like sort of overall presentation of the art. I don't know how that's different than an artist. I really don't. For that, they listed Cliff Chiang. I don't understand their definition between artist and cartoonist very well personally, but Cliff Chiang's a great artist, so I'm fine with that. Best colorist, I totally agree with this one. Marta Gracia. Love Marta's work. Some of the best modern coloring in comics has rendering, isn't over-rendered. Makes the artwork look better without muddying it up. But it isn't just solid colors either. Really interesting work. Really interesting work, actually. Deserving of an analysis. Best letterer went to Cowles. I get that. Clayton does a lot of work. I think that the work this year by Hassan and by Russ Wooten is definitely stuff that was awesome that I could have voted for. But I get it. Clayton's good. Best ongoing comic, Amazing Spider-Man. Whoa! You guys just blew my mind. You lost me there. I think Zeb Wells can be a great writer sometimes. I think he wrote a great episode of She-Hulk on the Netflix show. Not Netflix, Disney Plus. He's done some great comics in the past. He has. I love John Romita Jr. I made a whole episode this past, 2022, towards the end, defending that I think he's a really good artist. And I do think he's doing some great art in this. But do I think that Amazing Spider-Man was the best ongoing comic in 2022? I don't think it cracks the top 20. I don't think it cracks the top 30. It lost me. I tried it for a full year, and I was like, this ain't going anywhere. It isn't developing its central premise that it like presented in the first issue or two. It had Spider-Man like really, really on the ropes, like acting like it was his worst battle ever from just an angry vulture, an old man vulture. He didn't have some new ability or new technique. He just came after Spider-Man and beat him to hell. I was like, this isn't necessarily out of character. I get that the hero could have a bad day, but the vulture, That was their choice for best ongoing, and I don't get it. I don't get it. Oh, hold on. Jim's got some interesting information here. Cartoonist is someone who does all the work. Writer, artist, letterer. Dan Clowes is the best example, I would say, or Hernandez brothers. Thank you. Does that mean that Cliff Chiang did everything for the Catwoman book? That I didn't know. If that's the case, I'm extra impressed. And I do like that definition. It's always interesting to see when somebody can control so much of their own comic. That is interesting. Thank you for the clarification. Sincere thank you. That makes sense. That does make sense. Thank you for the super chat, Jacob. Bought a hardcover of Monsters because of your recommendation. Excited to read it. Boy, do I think that's a powerful book. Just nails it on every level. Art, writing, lettering. So much is going on in that book. All right. Wally says, yes. Cliff Chiang wrote, drew, colored, and lettered the whole Catwoman Lonely City series. That makes it more interesting. That makes it something I want to go pick up. I think one of my kittens just walked by. Kitty, where are you? Where are you? Oh, there you are. You're right underneath me. It's Lily. You guys usually get to see Jack. Ah. All right. Hold on. Hold on. We got it. We got an adventurous kitten here. Look at who we got here. We've got Lily. Yup. A-Man was on top of that. I hear a kitty. Kitty wants to play, says Daniel. Kitty wants to climb on me, that's for sure. Hi. Hi. Do you want to say hello to the viewers? I put a necklace on them today. I put yellow on Lily and blue on Jack because they honestly look very, very similar. So I like to be able to tell them apart. You gonna walk on Daddy's art? Oh, my little squirmy wormy. Okay, she can be very active, so she's not always in the mood for a cuddle. She's purring. She wants to say hi to us. You're gonna show them your butt, huh? Okay, you go play down there. Meow. She's so adorable. They're very fun. She's very destructive in her own way, but in a way that amuses me. One of my hobbies that could like relax me used to be building very big Lego sets, and I would put them up on these shelves. Well, Lily has figured out that she really likes to jump up, find the Lego man on them, put it in her mouth, and run off with it. So what I've been doing, I've been breaking down all my Lego sets, boxing them up. Can't let her get at that stuff. So anyway. Oh yeah, what if they switched collars? I would be able to tell. I can tell them apart, but they're very, very similar. Anyway, let's go back to the show here, because I've got some news for you folks. Look, respect for a lot of these categories, and thanks folks for giving me some more information. I am now very interested in Catwoman Lonely City, knowing that it's all by Cliff Chiang. But I just got to put out there, I strongly disagree with Amazing Spider-Man as the best ongoing of the year. And I get no real pleasure out of talking trash about a comic. I'm not trying to do that. There's things about it that I like, but I don't think it's the best. And I think it needs to move a little faster to get to its central premise of what Peter Parker did that was so bad that, his family and friends weren't talking to him, that drove Mary Jane Watson into another relationship, and who this guy is. Like, we still don't know this stuff, and now it's been over a year. That's a long time. And it doesn't help that Spider-Man now is getting drawn into, this side story of Dark Web, this crossover with X-Men. I was like, I'm done. You're not giving me the story that I want. No, Lily hasn't brought me anything dead because they're indoor only kitties. They're indoor only kitties. But my sister got them a running wheel for Christmas. That'll help them. That'll help them get their zoomies out. Every night they've got zoomies. She's just walking around exploring down here and meowing. So we'll ignore her and do more comic book news. The Angoulême Fest. Boy, do I want to go to Angoulême someday. Huge comic book festival in France, where the town has it for like 4 or 5 days, something like that. This year, I believe it goes from the 26th to the 29th. Well, they've canceled artist Bastien Vives. Vive? I'm terrible at French. Bastien was going to have an exhibit. Comic book artist, by the way, obviously. Well, he had a petition of over 100,000 people, including a lot of industry people. They were telling Angoulême they didn't want to see him present. And I guess a lot of that had to do over a book he did back in 2018. You know, I'm getting a lot of this news translated, so it's a little hard to parse all of it out, but it's an interesting story. So I'm going to do my best to share it here. But I could have a little mistake here and there. Anyway, he did a book in 2018 that got a lot of, what word do I want to use? Vitriol, because if you're a young boy getting abused by adults, I understand it was some pretty tough material to enjoy. It's like pretty dark. You know, a lot of people were offended by what it was. Angoulême said, look, the exhibition we were planning was for not that book or anything. It was for some unseen up to now work he's done. And, you know, we're a very art focused event. We believe in freedom of expression. That part isn't the reason we're going to like say that he can't be here, but they did cancel his exhibition. And I guess that had more to do with the fact that, and this is alleged, but that he has a big history of attacking women online for a long time, creating like sock puppet accounts that were found out. A lot of it, from what I've read. Also, when they were talking about potentially ending this festival, he apparently threatened a lot of festival organizers, which is not going to do you much good for your case. So, yeah, not great. Bastien, he got canceled. So, that's a downer. Let's move on to something light. This is fairly light. Lily, you want to come back? You like the kissy son? Marvel has done an X-Men vote for the last 2 years. They've got a third one they tweeted will be coming up very soon. Basically, every year, they are now allowing their readers and people online to vote for one new member to join the X-Men team, and they will abide by that. And the writer has to work it in. In 21, fans voted for Polaris to join the team. She did that at that year's Hellfire Gala Award ceremony comic. In 2022, fans voted in Firestar. The nominees for this year haven't been announced yet, but Marvel tweeted this week that they will have the vote up soon. And they've also been hinting that the current status quo for Marvel, for mutants, where they're living on Krakoa, that will end this year after their current Sins of Sinister event, where Mr. Sinister is like, a big bad guy doing sinister stuff. They're going to have Fall of X, which is supposedly the end of the Krakoa era. What are you doing, kitty? She wants attention. But you know what? So do you guys. Let's see. I wish they would stick with a team longer than a year and develop the stories more. Well, I think most of the characters have stayed around for more than a year. It's just, there's a lot of characters. Ooh, a bit late, but I made it. Thank you, Marvin Nation. Always happy to have you here. Let's see. I vote Homer Simpson as the next X-Men. I don't think that that's one of their options. We should vote for Pacepot Pete. Not a mutant. Does need to be a mutant to be on the X-Men, apparently. Which, by the way, arguably, little racist, right? Or speciesist, because technically, I guess the X-Men are a different species, right? They're Homo superior versus Homo sapiens. Fall of X doesn't really imply it's the end of Krakoa. It's just marketing. Well, yeah, I mean, all of it in serialized superhero comics is marketing. I mean, nothing really changes, but they have hinted that they're going to end the Krakoa era. They've hinted that. We'll see. We'll see. Who knows? It's all going to be the same ultimately. Wait till they start doing this in the movies. Oh, don't think that would work too well. Hope not. How long was Krakoa going on for? That only started right at like sort of right before the pandemic, right? That was like end of 2019 or something, where they did the House of X Powers of 10. Wasn't that like 2019 that came out and started that whole era? And Jonathan Hickman said he never intended it for that era to last this long, but the other writers that write X-Men books were like, we want to play with this concept. And Marvel was like, yeah, good idea. Go for it. Is it really a different species if humans and mutants can crossbreed and have viable offspring? Yes, absolutely is, actually. A lot of anthropology these days will say that there was actually several simultaneously existing species, early man, that became Homo sapiens. So like, Homo erectus and stuff like that may have been living side by side for quite a while with some of the other Homo species. And some of them died out, and basically their offspring became what we are today. And there are other things that can be slightly what a tiger and a lion are a different species, but they can crossbreed. Things like that. Yeah, it is possible for some species to crossbreed. But that gets into some... yeah, there we go. Thank you. A roguish type is helping explain this. It's like Neanderthal and Sapiens, different species, but so close they can breed. Pox, House of X, Powers of 10 was in 2018? Okay, so I was off by a year? That is possible. I can't really remember. If it was 2018, it had to be late 2018. It had to be. But it's hard to remember. Most modern humans have Neanderthal DNA. Yeah, there's a lot. Originally it was thought that, there was one dominant species and like it just continued to evolve. But now the modern thinking is that there were several pre-Homo sapiens species living simultaneously, and some of them died out and some of them crossbred and stuff like that. That's the current thinking. Yeah, ligers aren't viable, but that's still two species that can produce an offspring. What else? Isn't there like a donkey and a mule or something like that, or different species but can produce something? I forget exactly what it is. If you can't interbreed at all, you never get evolution. They use that definition for convenience. Yep. We're getting close to the end of the news, folks. Marvel announced a Stan Lee documentary. When did they announce it? On December 28th. That would have been Stan's 100th birthday. He got pretty darn close to getting to be 100. He was up there. He was up there. It's going to be exclusive to Disney Plus. They just released a small teaser trailer saying that it was something that was going to come at some point in 2023. Kitty, what are you doing? Climbing, always climbing. I'm curious about that. No matter what you feel about Stan Lee, I think everybody would agree he was a pretty interesting person. So I've read a bunch of biographies that talk about Stan. Some are more flattering than others. Some are pretty condemn him. I think he did a lot for comics, and I think he lived an interesting life. I think that there are a few other people that like lived even more interesting lives. I think that, Jack Kirby, I think that would make a hell of a movie talking about his life. But a bunch of these guys did go to war. Will Eisner would make an amazing biopic. But I think that, Stanley did do a lot for comics. He was their hype man at a time comics really needed that. He did do that. And he gave a voice and a personality to comics. So there are legit criticisms worthy of addressing as far as credit goes, but I think he did do a lot for comics, and I think he lived an interesting life. And personally, I would love to see a movie about him. Oh, thank you for correcting me here, Kyle. It's a donkey and a horse, right? They make a mule, right? So different species, but they can make something. Jim Shooter era Marvel would make a neat miniseries. Maybe. That might be a little niche. I would watch it. I wonder if it would be interesting enough to everybody else. Steranko would be an interesting movie, but I'm sure he'd demand to play himself. He probably would. You're right. Yeah, he lived an interesting life, at least according to him. And he probably did. He was a magician and stuff like that, so that's cool. What other comic book creators have had a really interesting life that would make for an interesting biopic? Because I gotta say, out of all of them, I'm starting to think Jack Kirby probably had the most interesting life. From being really poor to being pretty successful, but maybe not getting as much credit as he deserved, but certainly did get a lot of respect in his time. Went to war, went through some pretty dramatic stuff there. I think that he lived an interesting life, always fighting for more credibility and money that he deserved, but he still made a pretty good living for his family and took good care of them, Just Image Comics in general? Yeah, maybe. Todd McFarlane already had his own documentaries, yeah. I want to see Steranko bitch slap Bob Kane in a biopic. Oh, I added bitch to that. Robert Kirkman would be interesting. Lawsuit after lawsuit. He hasn't had that many lawsuits. He hasn't had that many. He had AMC and Frank Darabont were arguing over payment on Walking Dead, but that didn't fully involve Robert. And then Robert had one with Tony Moore, but they settled. And Tony even came back and drew a cover for Walking Dead number 100. So they're okay. They've done some stuff together. Vaughn Bodie needs a legit doc. That's an interesting one, Jim. Maybe an episode before somebody makes a good documentary. Andrew Jefferson, thank you. Best quote about Stan I've read was from Ross Kirby. If he was such a creative force, what great works did Stan do after Kirby and Ditko left? Yeah. Well, you could still argue that he did do some good stuff with both Buscema and Romita Sr. Was it the same level as the stuff that he created with Ditko and Kirby? No, but he did still create a lot. Some of it was, very commercial, but all of Marvel was kind of trying to be commercial, and it was successful too. So I don't know. I don't 100% agree with that. I see her point. It's a great point. Because you could definitely look at Jack Kirby and go okay, Jack Kirby, left Marvel, went over to DC, created the Fourth World. That's pretty awesome. He created things like, God of Light, the stuff for Argo. He created a lot of stuff. I loved Mark Evanier's biography on Kirby. Would love to see a movie about his life. I think that would be interesting. Your Penthouse Comics video makes me want to see a movie. Boy, that'd be a tearjerker, probably. He gave us She-Hulk, even if it was just to stop other companies from making her. Yeah. So he didn't do nothing, is all I'm saying. He didn't do nothing. Was it all as successful as Spider-Man and Thor and X-Men and Hulk? No. But it wasn't nothing. Let's see what else we have here. This is the last piece of news I've got. Yep. I just thought this was interesting because I'm a Doctor Who fan, and I saw the trailer that they just released within the last week for they're going to do 3 specials at the end of this year, 2023, in November, to celebrate the 60th anniversary of the show. And in the trailer, I was like, wait a minute, that looks familiar. That looks very familiar. There was a character in there. You see him in this image at the top. That's Beep the Meep. There he is below, drawn by Dave Gibbons. It seems like they are adapting a Doctor Who comic book story for at least one, if not like somehow all 3 of the specials. Because it's not just this alien Beep. The aliens that are chasing him are these like bug-like insect warriors. Those were in this comic too. This was a comic that was created by writers Pat Mills and John Wagner with Dave Gibbons as the artist. That ran in Doctor Who Weekly issues 19 through 26, a 7-issue story back in 1980. So that was a 4th Doctor story originally. And Beep is from this race of aliens that like the radiation in their planet like sort of perverted and changed them, and they became this warlike race of conquerors. Even though they look sort of like cute fuzzy fat raccoons, they are actually conquerors, and they were conquering so much of the galaxy that this Star Alliance or something had to put them down, like put down their conquering ways. There were these things called Wrath Warriors, which were these insect-like self-appointed police of the galaxy, you know, like Green Lantern or the Nova Corps, something like that. And they're chasing Beep, who crash lands on Earth while they're chasing him. And because he looks cute, he tricks this young girl into thinking that he's a good guy and he's being chased by these evil aliens. And she becomes the Doctor, and they inadvertently are working to protect Beep, even though he's actually the evil conqueror. That was the comic book story, which I have like this. I have the Dave Gibbons Doctor Who comics. It's a pretty fun story. I mean, look at the talent there. Pat Mills and John Wagner, they both wrote tons of great comics, especially a lot of great Judge Dredd stuff. They wrote some great Doctor Who stuff too. Dave Gibbons was awesome on Doctor Who. Really cool. It was a really good comic, and since I'm seeing both Beep and the Wrath Warriors and a young girl, I'm pretty sure that they're just sort of adapting that plot for the 14th Doctor, which could be very cool. I'm sure that they're going to make some changes too, but I've never seen them flat out adapt a comic book into a Doctor Who episode before. I've seen guys that have written comics like Paul Cornell. He wrote some fantastic Doctor Who stuff. What was it? He wrote a great story for the 10th Doctor, a 2-parter, Family of Blood and Human Nature. One of the best stories for the 10th Doctor. He's written a lot of comics. There was a comic book character I did an episode of Comic Tropes on called Absalom Doc. He was a guy who hunted down Daleks. There was an episode once that showed an image of that character as a wanted criminal. They showed that once in an episode, like the drawing of him. He was shown as a wanted. That was like a really fast Easter egg that you have to know the comics to have captured. But yeah, right, Chemdog. The young girl is Donna's doctor. I do know that. Yeah, which helps involve her. But anyway, it looks like just from the brief trailer and like seeing the character and having read the comic, I'm like, I think that they're adapting a comic book. They've adapted some plots from the Virgin novels, but they've never adapted a comic, to my knowledge. They've never adapted a comic, so I think that that's pretty cool. I love Doctor Who though, so I'm a little biased there. Let's see. The Fourth Doctor is the only one I've ever seen any episodes of. Years ago at my aunt's. Being American, I had no idea what I was watching. The Master looked like a rotting Palpatine. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember when the Master looked like that. Yep. Let's see. Now, if only aliens could take that route instead of all these engineer prequels. Yeah, I guess I haven't read that, so I don't quite know. Let's see. I have to head out. Well, I'm about to end the show, so you're timing that well. Thank you for the kind words, Tobers. Let's see. Been binging the hell out of your videos lately. Great. Thank you so much. Favorite Doctor. That's always hard. That's always hard because I love so many of them. But I think if I was, you put a gun to my head and I was being honest, I'd probably have to admit that Tennant as the 10th Doctor was probably my overall favorite. Yeah. But I love the second Doctor. Well, wait a minute. I can think of good stories for almost all of them. Not a big fan of the 6th Doctor. Not a humongous fan of the 1st Doctor, although I respect what they built. But I like 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 9 and 10 and 11 and 12 ultimately. You know what? I wanted to like 13, but it's kind of boring. But I don't blame her, the actress, Jodie Whittaker. I just don't think Chris or whatever Chibnall. I don't remember what his first name was. Maybe it was Chris. I don't think he wrote great stories for that era. Unfortunately, I don't say that. Whoa! Look at that. Thank you for the show. Thank you. Oh my God. Yeah. Inspector Spacetime. That was so funny on Community and so cringy watching that actor that played Inspector Spacetime, like basically a passing gag on Community, like watch him try to make Inspector Spacetime into its own thing. And all it was like 1-for-1 swaps of everything Doctor Who came up with. And he crowdfunded and raised a ton of money to make supposedly a movie, and that never happened. So he just must have taken that money and run. He must have. Kind of depressing. Let's see. Baker, Tennant, Eccleston are top 3. That's fair. Those are all very, very good. David Tennant is my favorite. I haven't watched Jodie Whittaker's season yet, so I'm confused about Tennant coming back. It makes sense in context. It's still weird, but it makes sense. For me is 11 because he had better stories than the 10th. Debatable. Certainly not bad. I can binge watch the modern era with the exception of the current Doctor. It's unwatchable. Yeah, I really want to like Jodie Whittaker's. I don't dislike her personality or her look. There's a lot there that could have worked. I just don't feel like the stories really were that interesting, unfortunately. But that's also the thing I'll say about the 6th Doctor. I don't think that Colin Baker was necessarily a bad idea. I think his costume was a terrible idea, but I don't think he was a bad actor. I think he has a lot of energy and is interesting, but it just tough. Sometimes it's hard being a Doctor Who fan. You want them to do better. So that's everything I had for news. I'm trying to think if there was anything else I was going to talk about, but I think I covered everything. Happy New Year, everybody. I really appreciate having you here. It means a lot to me. this is something I get a lot of pleasure out of. And it's just really fun to talk comics with you all. You guys are so supportive and educated and knowledgeable. This is where I get recommendations for things that I would otherwise miss, and some of them I really end up falling in love with. So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I hope that 2023 is good to you and your family and friends, loved ones. I would say 2022 was a little tough for me. It wasn't the best year I've ever had, but who knows? You know, I'm excited about the upcoming year. I am. I'm excited about what the future holds. I think that there's a good chance that there will be a few comic book projects that I will work on, as well as I'm very excited about the ideas I have for several episodes coming up. What else can I say about the upcoming? And I'm going to try to do the best I can for my overall health. I really want to keep losing weight so that I'm here. We'll see. Thank you all, though, for everything you do just by being here. It means a lot to me. It really does. I love doing this show. I love doing comic tropes. I love talking to everybody about comics. How was the stream quality tonight? Was it better than it's been the last few episodes? Because I know the last few episodes, it got pretty dicey. Was this hopefully less hiccups? I definitely paid for like a much faster internet, got a whole brand new modem. Hopefully this was better. But it's up to you guys if it actually was. I don't know. I'd love to hear your feedback there. There's a little delay, so I'm going to wait a minute to see if anybody has anything to say about that. Let's see. Stream quality is way better, only a little bit of freezing, but it's an acceptable amount. That's too bad that it is still doing a little bit of hiccuping. All I can figure then is that it's this program that I use to stream, which is StreamYard, because I ran several speed tests for uploads, and they were fantastic, like really, really strong. So it's a little frustrating to hear that it isn't perfect for what I'm paying. But I'll keep working, see if there's anything else I can change up or fix. If you guys have any suggestions for things that I should do differently or better, you should always feel free to shout them out. It's been pretty good. What kind of camera am I using? This is just a simple like a webcam Nexigo, and then that is my phone actually. Did still hiccup. It was a bit glitchy in spots. Your old hometown store in Quincy that you visited, didn't the creator of the Tick work there? No, he didn't work there. He shopped at a nearby one in Pembroke, but he just shopped there. He was local to that. There were several stores for NEC, still are. So yeah, he just shopped there, and because he drew and stuff, they hired him to put his character, the Tick, in their newsletter, and eventually they published his comics. I made an episode about the Tick, so I recommend that if you want to learn a little bit more. Hopefully that helps. I had no idea the creator of the Tick was from the South Shore. Yeah. Yep, Ben Edlund from Pembroke. And yeah, I got to meet him a bunch when he first came out with the tick. I met him at NEC in Quincy. He was doing a signing there. I met him at like 2 different Boston Comic Cons. This was back in the 80s when the tick first came out. Got to have a few conversations with him, followed his career with great interest ever since then. And he worked on shows that I ended up like really loving, like Angel and Buffy, and Firefly and Supernatural. I've got a sketch by him of Dean Winchester from Supernatural. I like that because I'm a big fan of the Tick and a big fan of Ben Edlund. I think he's really funny. Let's see. A little choppy sometimes with vid and audio independently. There was better consistent quality than when you did that. Oh, there was better consistent quality when you did that brief test the other night, but sometimes perfect is the enemy of done. Frustrating. The webcam is pretty smooth. The video through your phone is a little choppy. Okay, maybe I'll have to get a dedicated, like actual, like nice camera for this. But the one I'm thinking of that would be useful for this would probably also be one that I would take with me on like, remote shoots if I traveled and stuff. It's probably about a $600 camera or so. Realistically, $600 or $700. Like get some sort of good, like simple, flat, portable DSLR. Doesn't necessarily have to take big lenses, but that's probably what I need to get for both this and like for remote shoots. Frustrating. I want that Flaming Carrot Mystery Men review. Hey, you never know. Did he become Darth Vader after you watched his career with great interest? Yes, I will watch his career with great interest. Hey, I didn't do any real impressions tonight. Let's see. The stream looks better on my phone than it did on my smart TV. Okay, well, I'm doing my best, folks. I'll try to keep improving, but thanks for being with me. Didn't really finish but you can get the gist of it, And we talked about a lot of interesting comic book news. I'm going to get some dinner and get back to editing the next Comic Tropes episode. I want you guys to have that one this weekend. That's what I'm aiming to do. It's just covers a lot of comics. That always takes a long time to, find the images that I need, scan them, or, buy digital versions and download the proper images. That always takes a really long time. That's what takes the longest on editing. It's just gathering the right images. So that's not easy, but it's going to take a lot of work on this one, but that's okay. It'll probably lead to a more interesting episode. I think you guys will like it. Thank you so much. Happy New Year. Keep reading comics. Tell you what, let's end with the double salute like this. Boop. That's for you. You earned it. Take care, everybody. Keep reading comics. Look at that. Nice last comments. That's so cool. That's awesome. Thank you, everybody. Take care.